Hey, I'm just trying to think how I would bust through these doors if I was Tate. It kind of reminds me of when Pac was released after he had some basically hashtag Me Too scam malicious cases slapped on him. You heard me? He came out flipping off reporters. You feel me? Spitting on reporters, which is a beautiful thing. You dig? Yelling out thug life. I'm just trying to figure out like would I want to come out of there turned up? Would I want to come out there with a smile? Would I want to come out there, raising the saint pose? Like how would I want to bust through these doors? You dig? But anyways, hopefully he does bust through these doors. We shall see. And then my other question is, what would I want waiting for me? Do I want you to have like a whole oodle of hoes waiting for me? Do I want the saints waiting for me? Do I want my family waiting for me? What do I want, right there to receive a boss after coming out of the pen? BBC has actually published an article about this. And where did it go? Here we are. Andrew Tate and brother to be released into house arrest. I mean, they just disrespect Tristan left and right. They just call my boy brother. You don't have a name. We're not going to call you anything. We're not going to make you famous. We'll just call you brother. And just side note, you can tell Romania is an exceptionally unofficial place because this just looks like they at the back of a nightclub entrance waiting for somebody to come out. Yerby. They look like stalkers at the back of a strip club exit, that private exit from the strip club, trying to catch their favorite girl and kidnap her and throw her in the back of their Cadillac. This is crazy. This is so unofficial. Amazing. I'd hate to be arrested in Romania. Anyways, back to the article. Andrew Tate and brother released into house arrest. And this article was written about 40, or rather published 45 minutes ago, and it's using past tense as though they've already been released. So who knows if that's actually the case. Controversial social media influencer Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan are to be moved from custody to house arrest with immediate effect, a Romanian judge has ruled. The ruling by the Court of Appeal in Bucharest replaces the latest period of custody, which was to end on April 29. Okay, so they actually seems like they won the appeal, and this cut their current stay short, which would have been all the way to the end of next month. So that's definitely a success. Shout out to none of the above. Shout out to the real ones, Jeremy, the loyal ones, which is what you need. He says tuition. Wait, this is not a nightclub exit, right? Exactly, bro. It looked like the back of a strip club. That's the funny part. This does not look normal at all. This is an official Romanian detention building where they release high-profile celebrities. That's what this is. So it was basically the Court of Appeals in Romania that is allowing him to be released. He was supposed to be released April 29th per the original judge that was on the case. It says two associates, Georgiana Nagel and Luana Radu, are also being released. All four have been ordered to stay in the buildings where they live unless they have judicial permission to leave. So in the case of Tristan and Andrew, they're quite fortunate in as much as they live together, number one. And then number two, the place that they live is, reasonably large and comfortable. So that's a good thing. Now, the question I would be curious about is, are they able to have any type of company there, meaning anyone can visit? Or is it only their legal counsel and necessary workers? It says the brothers have been detained since December. That's a cool little minute. What are we at? January, March, April. 4 months. Yeah, so they've been in about 4 months. That's a cool little minute. On allegations of RAPE, people trafficking, people trafficking. Okay, and forming an organized crime group. Oh, that's curious. I feel like that's more of a new one. Both have denied wrongdoing. Well, of course. Lawyers for Mr. Tate. I don't know why it doesn't say the Tate brothers. I'm quite sure they're sharing an attorney. Have argued that keeping him in preventative custody is unnecessarily harsh. I can agree. When other judicial options such as house arrest are available. Leaked court documents seen by the BBC, leaked are they, or were they purchased or stolen? Outline testimony from alleged victims claiming to be forced to earn 10,000 pounds a month. That's not that much. Anyways, okay. I mean, like, these broads are lazy. 10,000 pounds a month. That ain't the pimping. Low key, I feel like a real P could have worked a lot more than that out of them. Just 10,000 pounds a month. I mean, that's light work. You hear me? You might be able to earn that in a good night in Vegas. Let's talk about it. Carrying on. So they're claiming that they were forced to earn 10,000 pounds a month. Now, I'd be curious as to the means or the methods of force. What we're finding increasingly is that women live essentially as fully grown children. They don't have to be responsible for thinking, for decision making, for consequences, for accountability. Since investigations began last April, 6 women have been identified by prosecutors as victims. Now, that's strange. Why is the prosecutor identifying the victims? Have they come forward as victims? I think language is really important here. So I'd like to know, did they volunteer themselves like me, hashtag me too? I'm a victim. Or were they sought out by a prosecution that's trying to put this guy away for whatever reason? So I'm quite curious about that. Carrying on with the stream, let's see. And here we go. It says, however, no charges have yet been brought against the brothers or the 2 Romanian associates who were arrested alongside them. See, now this is just exceptionally strange because it's like, why are these gentlemen in prison if no charges have been brought against them? Like, what are they being arrested based on? Right? If there are no charges, they were arrested based on accusation. Now, what are they being detained on? Huh? Political. This is political theater. We know. Court papers describe court papers describe debts being used as a form of psychological coercion. And let me tell you how ridiculous this is, particularly from a business perspective. And this is why businessmen understand the world the best. They understand politics the best because they have varied experience. So for example, in the music industry, when you start as a musical artist, you essentially will be indebted to your record label. They'll give you a budget to market yourself. They'll give you a budget to cover your expenses. And the idea is that your album sales, your touring, and whatever other media you put out, your publishing, etc., will repay the front money that the record label provided you. So this is a very common business structure that the artists or the operatives or the independent contractors or even employees, if you will, of a business could actually end up in debt to the business. That's one instance. Here's a second instance I want to speak to. There's some people who work in the recruiting business or in sales. And when you're in certain kinds of sales, you might be commission only. And if you're commission only, and these girls were no doubt in sales, if you're commission only, that means that if you don't sell any products for a 2-week period and you still want to get paid every 2 weeks, you'll be on a draw, which is to say that the company will front you money. They'll give you a paycheck, a modest paycheck. And then the next time you make a sale and make a commission, then that will be your proceeds, your profits will be subtracted. Your debts will subtract from your profits on your next sale. So it's very common in business that people will be on a draw. They'll be indebted to the business, or they'll be, commission only, and the business might be kind enough to provide them a salary, which they'll have to repay. So this is not an unusual thing. And if this is the case, that Romania is establishing this precedent that, debt is a form of psychological coercion, then should we shut down all of the credit card companies? And do they not put people in debt, and do they not coerce them to pay? Do they not call repeatedly? Do they not destroy your credit score such that you can't do other things? Do they not enact various forms of pressure on the person who supposedly owes money? So the other question is, can we rightly say that the Tate brothers enacted, a psychological tactic of coercing the women through debt? Well, the truth is, it's the way the subject psyche reacts. You could tell one person that they're indebted to you and therefore they need to do X, Y, and Z, and they can say, hey, and then you can tell another person and maybe they might comply. That's the nature of the individual. And the truth is that the court system is not there to regulate, based on the stupidity of the individual, but rather it's supposed to protect people from heinous actions, not from their own stupidity. So I think this is quite vile. And if it were a male that were in the position of these supposed female victims, we wouldn't even be having this conversation because we expect males to act as adults and to be accountable. And really, we have no sympathy. And truth be told, the government and the court system was not designed around being sympathetic. It's designed around mutual benefit and civilization. By the way, let me shout out to the third person who has supported. May I acknowledge the ballers? Shame came in with the quadruple baller alert. You dig? Now, give me a second. Looks like the internet is real shade tree right now. Thank you for those bearing with me. Funny thing about the guy who's holding this camera for Sky News to see the Tate's release, it's like he doesn't have a gimbal. Can somebody get this guy a gimbal so he can hold the freaking camera steady? Over here making people dizzy. Yes, indeed. Shout to the baller. Shout to Drip Lord Entertainment. He writes, "Peace to the saints, paying what I owe. This is going to be a fire lesson." Yes, indeed. Appreciate you. Shout out to the real ones. By the way, shout out to the ballers. Saint TKA writes, "Paying tuition to the big homie. Peace of the Saints. Pre-ordered the Boss University course. Looking forward to when it comes out. Ready to level up." Absolutely. And it will be out in not approximately, in exactly 26 days. And for the folks who got the pre-order, I am going to go through the whole course with you guys because I just want to show love to smart men who act quickly. You dig? I think that's the link if you want to get the pre-order. Tomorrow, I am going to increase the price by 20 US dollars. So do expect that. Shout out to Agent Michael. He writes, "Peace of the Saints. I want to get into hand-to-hand combat. I was thinking about doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, boxing, Krav Maga, and Muay Thai for 6 months, each at a time, and decide which one I like best. What do you suggest?" I don't think it'll take 6 months to get a sense of which one you like best. I can tell you that when you go through these experiences, that some of them are going to be clearly more painful than others. Like, for example, there's just no doubt about it that boxing and Muay Thai are going to be more painful than Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and Krav Maga. And I'll tell you why. Now, I see the kids doing BBJ all the time in my gym, which I have a combat gym that has many different combat sports. They never bleed. They never bleed. You know, the guys who are boxing and actually sparring, you're going to see some blood, probably about 40% of the time, blood from the nose, blood from the mouth. You're going to experience pain. I look on the BBJ side and it's co-ed. They're rolling around with each other, guys rubbing up cock to cock. And that's fine. I'm not saying it's not a good practice, but what I'm saying is that it's not painful. And so a weak mind will play a trick on you and say, "Oh, I like this more," when really you're just trying to escape pain. When you're doing Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, when you're doing Muay Thai, similarly, you're going to experience pain, serious pain from leg kicks, serious pain in the shins and the knees. So you have to know that it's a different discipline and it's going to build something radically different within you. With regards to Krav Maga, it's a meaningful practice. However, some of the techniques you learn them, but you can't actually implement them as they're, obviously designed in some cases to completely disable someone or to kill them or seriously injure or maim them. So it's something that you're practicing, but not really getting to execute on. I do recommend BBJ. Um, and I recommend boxing. And BBJ is great for technique, but boxing is better for your mind. You understand? It's better for making you strong and tough. Boxing and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu are going to make you a strong man mentally. It's going to allow you to endure and to persist and to recover. BBJ just, worst case scenario, you get choked out and you might go unconscious for a little bit and then you come right back to worst case scenario. But you're not really going to come out of there in significant pain. I watch this stuff. I've been watching this stuff like every day for years. It's mostly, it just looks cute. No disrespect to anybody, but there are no savages over there, right? Like if you're just doing BBJ, like I don't look at any of those guys like, damn, y'all are savages. Like, no, they come out, they're cute ass little karate gis, and their uniforms come out perfectly white. Maybe it's wrinkled. They got their karate gi wrinkled that day. And boxers, you come out blood all over the shirt. And if it's a competition, might be blood on the ref. If there's no blood, it's not really, what are we talking about here? Not that I want you covered in blood, but a blood sport is going to teach you different things that you need to learn. You're going to be a different kind of man when you shed your own blood, and when you shed the blood of other men, you're going to be a different kind of man. It's just undeniable. So I think BBJ is important. Like I just don't want to do it because I don't want to be rolling around in spandex shorts, ball to ball with a guy. That's just not my my MO. But it's a very important practice, and I might at some point try to learn a little bit of it because it's a beautiful practice. But I don't think it's going to make you a savage, and you should try to become a savage. May I acknowledge Sergio writes, the day after being released, I would execute my plan of vengeance. Well, this man got a lot of targets to hit, but I tell you, the first piece of vengeance he has to execute is on himself, because the truth is he was underprepared for this. And he also had some faulty assumptions. Tate's faulty assumption was that he could go to a retrograde economy such as Romania and live out in the open and be very opulent about his wealth and go unpunished. And sadly, classism is an issue. People hating masculinity is an issue. And, the West came for him. And I don't believe that this was wholly the Romanian government. I believe that this was the Romanian government being pushed by the West, which basically has done this to him. May I acknowledge Andrea. She writes, I don't care what people say about Tate. He changed my life as a woman in her 50s. I lift every day. I dress well. I have a man, and I love my money stacked. Talk to him, baby. Go ahead. I can dig it. Yes, indeed. My boy put BBJ rainbow flag. Oh, I hear you. I hear you. Oh yeah, it's BJJ. My fault, bro. My fault. I'm just it's just when you watch it, it looks more like BBJ. You feel me? But it's BJJ. Thank you. Thank you. Look at this little cutie pie. Bro would get choked out and he says they aren't savages. So, number one, I didn't say that they don't have technique. I didn't say that they're not effective in what they do. I said they're not savages, and I mean that. If you look at 2 weeks of boxing, if you participate in 2 weeks of boxing sparring in a gym, you are going to end up getting hurt and injured. You are going to shed your blood, and you're going to shed someone else's blood. And it's not going to be a pretty situation for those 2 weeks. It's going to be completely vicious. If you spend 2 weeks doing BBJ, sparring, or rolling around, whatever the hell they call it, you're going to come out fine. You're going to come out fine. I watch this every day. I'm in the most competitive gyms in Las Vegas. I see this every day in an Olympic gym. Yeah. So you can speak from your little profile with no photo, but let's talk about the important thing. If it were me versus you, I'd rip your head off and shit in your neck hole because you're a bitch. Straight up. Anyways, shout out to Noor. He writes, just grab the course piece of the same. Shout out to the real ones. You dig. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to, going through the course with everyone. Everyone who's wise enough and wealthy enough to get it. You dig. My boy said, "Why is this taking so long?" Hey, at least you ain't waiting in the cold Romanian weather. You heard me? At least you ain't out there waiting. I feel you, but hey, that's how things work in uncivilized places, and increasingly more of the world is uncivilized. They're not honest. They're not timely, etc. And by the way, I think this is the guy who said that I would get choked out. I would invite you to come on the stream. Would you like to come on the stream? You notice it's never the guys with the big mouths. It's never the tough guys. Never once. Look at this softy. Like this guy is like has his feelings hurt. It's so feminine. Jeez, it's so feminine. King One writes, "Peace to the saints. I respect so much the fact that you avoid all drugs and alcohol, caffeine too. Not a lot of people in your position with a lot of money to do that. A lot of money do that. Oh, agree. And you know, money is a great poison to most people. In fact, I was recently, yeah, I'm going to do a stream very soon. It's called How Money Ruins Relationships. And just real quick, I want to share this gem with you guys. A young lady um, had ordered two pairs of sunglasses. I think one was Chanel, and I forget what the other one was. Maybe it was Prada or like some expensive brand. And so she showed me the two pairs of sunglasses that she's purchased. Now, mind you, this is like thousands of dollars in sunglasses. So she shows me one pair, then she shows me the other pair, and I say, "Hey, those two pairs look like a pair that you already have that also costs $1,000." I was like, "Go get that other pair." She goes and gets the other pair, brings it back. She puts on the old pair. I say, "Yeah, like all three of these pairs, they all have a black lens and they all have a transparent clear frame." I was like, "The only difference is one is square and the other one is oval, but these three pairs of $1,000 sunglasses are all essentially the same." And then she says to me, she says, "Yeah, they're all transparent and they all have a black lens, but these are transparent and these are like transparent gray, like light gray, and these are transparent white and or not white, but transparent clear. So transparent clear, transparent gray, which is to say there's very minimal differences. You're spending thousands of dollars on eyewear and there's like minimal differences. And I knew that she had been poisoned and I too at some level have been poisoned, which is to say that you're spending money without great thought. You're not questioning your expenses. You know, people who are poor, they want to be able to spend without thinking, but you should never get to the point where you spend without thinking. It doesn't matter how much money you have because it's a poison to your spirit, it's a poison to your mind. It was really saddened me to see this, not only because she was doing this, but also because it was a reflection of me, because I know I too sometimes in this kind of situation dealing with pettiness, you know, spending the amount on sunglasses that you know you could use to do something more meaningful. One thing I'm very proud to say is if you're one of the saints in Saint City, I take care of these guys out here. You know, I always show love, put a lot of people on. Anyways, but yes, thank you very much. I try my best to live an upright life, which is increasingly difficult. It has been said that it's harder for a camel to walk through the eye of a needle than a wealthy man to get into heaven. And I don't think that's true, but I understand the sentiment behind it, which is to say, when you have all of the resources to do whatever you would like to do, it's quite hard to refrain from whoring and paying for gold diggers and flying out Instagram thoughts and all the rest of it. And that's why it's so important for us to live by standards. My boy said Tate is about to make so much money. I tend to agree with you there. Now, the only question is how much money of his will be kept by the Romanian government. Like, are they about to give my boy back his cars? Are they going to give back the cash that they seized? Or are they going to hold that for evidence? Or are they going to use that for, what do they call it? Re something, but basically paying back the government for what they've expended on the investigation. So I'd be curious about it. He said BJJ people make it into a religion, and I think it's a beautiful thing to be dedicated to your practice. Yeah, and as I said, it's a respectable practice, and those guys are hardcore, but they're not savages. I'm not talking about the professional practitioners. I'm talking about the amateur, the person who's doing this to see what they can do on the streets. You see, because when I see people rolling every single day for years, there's never any blood. No one ends up unconscious. No one ends up with a black eye. No one ends up injured. You can go there and you're in a comfort zone. There's women there. You know, one thing that'll tell you a lot, a major difference between boxing or Muay Thai and BJJ. I go to a number of gyms in Las Vegas, which is the fight capital of the world, of the whole planet Earth. And of course, I've also been to Thailand and seen Muay Thai and all this good stuff. And when you watch the combat sports, in terms of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you see it's co-ed. You know, it's like 20% women. They're rolling with the men, and all is well. In boxing, there's like almost no women in the gym. And in boxing, when you watch the sparring, it's brutal and it's mean and it's unpleasant. No one's like casual about it. BBJ BJJ is casual, bro. Like, come on, stop playing with me. And as the Saint said, hop on screen. You're a tough guy. Hop on screen. See, that's the difference. I'm telling you is that if you're a casual or an amateur BJJ guy, you go there, get your workout in, and you do their version of sparring, rolling, whatever you want to call it. Um, you don't develop a savage mentality. You see, maybe if you were a boxer, you'd come on screen because you've had some toughness built within you. Maybe like me, you've had your ribs broken on both sides, huh? Maybe you had some scar tissue developed on your nose from getting punched a lot. You'd be tougher than you are, but see, you're weak hearted. That's why you're scared to come on camera, and you only verify what I'm saying is that you're weak. My boy said, I bet Tate is making a speech of all the things I would do coming out of the pen after 3 months. Making a speech wouldn't be one of them. I feel like I'm coming out, Yerby. I might even walk out with my meat out, Yerby. I would just walk out pants down with my meat out, swinging, Yerby, swinging, just to be disrespectful. I'm coming out doing something completely ill advised. Artemis. He said, bro, you call it BPJ. I know, I know, I know. I'm trying, I'm trying. Uh, my boy said, can't wait for the door to open. That'd be funny as hell if 4 more hours go by that goddamn door to open at all. My boy said, when's it gonna happen? Shout out to SD. Appreciate the support. Gentleman says, why is this a big deal? You know, it's a big deal because the detention of Andrew Tate is really, if you're paying attention, it's a detention that goes in a long line of powerful men, masculine men, being wrongly prosecuted because of loose, promiscuous, dishonest, gold digging females. And we found that there's no protection for men who are great men and successful men. And I hope that we've learned something from this, in as much as it was very late that his supporters decided to properly support. You see, I don't want to go to prison and then be in there 3 months and then people decide to get on Twitter and organize a protest. If they come for me, I want the protest to occur the moment that these filthy authorities take me down. I want the protest to be recurrent and immediate such that they will release me, because power only backs down in the face of more power. Now, one thing I will say is Tate's first stream after he gets out is going to be epically well attended. I mean, that sounds nice, but I don't think that's about to happen, my boy. I don't think that's about to happen. What is this stupidity? Do you like or dislike Tate? That's right, restitution. Tate may have to lose all of his cars, his wealth, and his cash that's been seized to pay restitution to the Romanian government. And what I surmise is that, sadly, um, he is going to, I think, because people are starting to show significant, meaningful support for him actually showing up and protesting, not in Bucharest where they should have been, but in various places elsewhere. But being that they're showing up at some level, it's displaying that he is respected and that he has power. And as a result, they're going to let him go free eventually. They're going to continue to prosecute him because it would be an embarrassment to the Romanian government. And we know the government nerds don't like to be embarrassed. So, what they're going to do is they're going to prosecute him and they're going to find him guilty of some minor crime. And they're going to claim that he's guilty of all crimes, but there was only evidence of this one minor crime. And I'll tell you what the idea is behind that. So the idea is this: they're going to find him guilty of a minor crime, and then they're going to give him credit for time served, if that's how it works in the Romanian system. And they're going to do that to appease Tate's followers who are becoming increasingly agitated. So they're going to say, okay, you were guilty of coercion, or you were guilty of some minor crime, and we sentenced you to 6 months in prison. Oh, it turns out you already spent 3 months in prison waiting for trial. So we're going to give you credit for time served, and then you have to do 2 more months, or you have to do like 5 months on house arrest. So they're essentially going to let him go free because they lack evidence and because his supporters are actually showing some level of organization and power at the 13th hour. So I think that'll be essentially what happens. What they cannot do, what the government is not able to do, is basically say, oh, our mistake, you get to go free completely. We finding you innocent of all charges and you get to go free. That'd be a total embarrassment. And that would only verify the what the government is trying to say are conspiracy theories, that people are basically right about him just being victimized because he's wealthy, powerful, and masculine. If they say he's innocent of all charges, that's going to make the government look bad, and it's going to verify what the government has tried to portray as conspiracy theories. Look at this. Look at this. I'm red pill, but you're a fraud. First off, what does red pill have to do with anything? You watch too many movies, my boy. Number two, uh, if red pill is what you are, they all bitches. You're because you're too scared to come on camera. You're a fruitcake, my boy. To completely despicable. And I gave you a whole 20 minutes and you're scared. That's not very masculine. All these alpha males, you scared to turn on the camera. Get the fuck out of here. You're pathetic, my boy. You pathetic, my boy. Shout out to Bay Boy 62 supporting the work. Mac Notch Top Shelf, who writes Peace of the Saints, supporting the real and making the internet nerds mad. He put join the live, bro. He would never. He too scared. He too scared. Wow. Exactly. And this is precisely the kind of young man that is not a man. These are the ones, like, we're in a strange era to where you have people who say that they're savages, they say that they're alpha males, but they're all cowardly. What I'm encouraging you all to do is the most masculine thing there is. When a passport bro says, oh, we're going to leave our home country and go to another country to find a proper woman, I'm saying, oh, that's fine if that's what you want to do on an individual basis, but on a societal basis, for the future of our sons, for the future of our societies and of our civilization, we're going to make the women in America behave correctly, because we are going to shape and control this society in the same way that is being done in Afghanistan, for example. And we're not going to leave our country. Think about how weak that is. When you leave, that's called retreat. That's called fleeing. We will not leave. If I'm from Britain, I'm going to make Britain great. If I'm from America, I'm going to make America great. I'm not going to leave and flee my country. It's my country. Right? How masculine are they? We see very quickly, you see the lack of masculinity in the modern male. And the sad reality is we often think that it's the female who's at fault in our society. We think that the laws are all bad. Well, only have these things happen as a result of the weak males. Oh, don't say that, you foul. Now he's not gonna join the live. He's scared. It's okay, he's scared. Guy said Royce Gracie is a savage. That's true. Royce Gracie is a savage. That's correct. And I agree with you there. What I was putting forward is for everyday folks who are training boxing or training BJJ, if I had to, pick one of them, I would pick boxing every time. For the average man, it's going to be the closest activity that gets you to the actual mental and physical and adrenal experience of conflict and combat in real life. That's number one. Then number two, if I took 10 amateur boxers and I took 10 amateur BJJ folks, I think the boxer and just like threw them into a room and said, kill each other with your bare hands, 10 boxers and 10 BJJ guys, and said, try your best to kill each other. I think the boxers would come out of there covered in blood. You heard me? They'd come out there covered in blood laughing. You heard me? In a real way. Right. Um, Right, it's BJJ versus boxing. The street fight, boxing wins. Yeah, because generally, if you've observed a street fight, and if you guys haven't been in them, I've been in more than my fair share. You can read about that in my book called The Black Box. You can get it on Amazon.com. True stories. You can see the court cases. Like if you read something in my book, you can see the court cases. You can find them on Google. So that's real life stuff. But in street fights, that's correct. Street fights don't start with someone being tackled; they start with someone being punched, and punching is a core competence of the boxer. He says, "Enjoyed the life, Goofy." These guys are scared. I remind you guys often that no one hates me; they only hate themselves. When they see someone like me, it causes them to reflect on themselves and where they're at, and in their inferiority, they become angry. It's the old story of jealousy. And shout out to my fight fans. You dig? And I go to the UFC fights. I go to the pretty much anything, any blood sport, any combat sport in Vegas, you'll see me there. In fact, I was just recently at the who was fighting. I was at the Benavidez Plant fight. Phenomenal fight. Had the privilege of being there with my partner Jabri, and as well with Immortal Technique. Really enjoyed it. Had a good time. Um, John writes that Royce won the original tournament when there was just one rule of no eye gouging. That's true, but one thing you have to consider is, and most people didn't observe this, but a fighter would see this instantly. Royce's attire made it hard to grab him because you're grabbing him and his clothes are kind of like sliding off, so you really never get a grip on him. Whereas other guys were fighting with no shirt or they're fighting with like in spandex, so it's easier to grip these guys. And so Royce had a couple strategic advantages beyond having a skill set and an approach that was radically different from everyone else. So I think one thing that was intelligent on the part of the UFC is to have some regulations around attire. Sigmund said BJJ in the street is dangerous because you can get jumped. Yeah, I mean, if you voluntarily go to the ground, so say you're there are two assailants, right? There's two people trying to attack you, and then you voluntarily go to the ground so that you can roll around with the guy, ball to ball. Then the other guy's just going to stomp you out while you're on the ground. In the case of boxing, you take it from the shoulders with two guys, you have a chance. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Shout out to none of the above. He writes, I respect BJJ, but there's a great number of Matt thoughts. Ruins the credibility. You had that boy typing all caps, LOL. Yes, indeed. Funny guy. he said Tate fiending for it. I know I would be. You heard me? That's one of the reasons I could never go to prison or go to the army. I just couldn't do it. You heard me? I acknowledge Donovan. He writes, Peace Marquette and Peace of the Saints just ordered Boston University presale. Walked out the bank and I see the big homie covering this great news. God is great and today is a good day. Really happy to hear that. You dig? And shout out to the bosses with them big bank accounts that make the bank teller's face get frowned up. You heard me? Ah, I love it. I remember one day I went to the bank and the bank teller saw my balance and it looked like it ruined her day. I was like, yo, what's going on here? Looked like it ruined her day. She had purple hair, so you can totally understand why, right? Good stuff. And he gonna come out of there crip walking. That'd be funny as hell. Come out doing one of them dances that people do when Maury say, "You are not the father." You heard me do a couple backflips. Yes, indeed. Vasquez's writes, I found your channel, been binging your content. Surprised you're not more famous. Keep putting out gems. Uh, it's temporary. You feel me? I've been shadow banned, but it's okay. I got some more strategies, and the most important thing is that I have a good life, I have a happy life, and I'm prosperous. Those are the important things in life. Fame is a strange thing. To be honest with you, when I'm out in the world and people recognize me, I still find it to be not entirely the most comfortable thing. So I really just focus on spreading my message, spreading this three sentence Bible, linking up the saints through the Saint in the Center Nation, which we have sections of the SAS and globally. And that's really what's most important to me. I acknowledge money mindset supporting the work. Truly appreciate it. Oh, did somebody actually come out just now? Hold on. Let me scroll down to the bottom. Okay, the girls are out. All right, cool. Let me maximize it. So the bras just came out. Dang, them hoes must have slid out like real quick. Somebody in the chat update me. Said, why no audio? The channel playing it does not have audio. Yeah, if someone in the Sorrow, shout out to Sorrow, real one. He writes his first day out live stream is going to go crazy. Stupid money, stupid viewers. Bruh, I wouldn't be surprised if he has the most highest attended live stream in the history of live streams and the most well supported live stream in the history of live streams. I would not at all be surprised, not in the least bit. Look at the mental illness here, Saints. Look at the mental illness. He says, as a Romanian. Now, is he Romanian or not? Who knows? He has a picture of a poor person's car in his profile photo. He writes, as a Romanian, I laugh so bad at you. 1.7K viewers watching a clown getting released. Here's the funny thing, man. The mental illness just knows it's boundless mental illness. Here's the funny thing. And by the way, Edward, I thank you for making my day brighter. I thank you for making me laugh harder today, bro. I appreciate you. If nobody appreciates you, if the women around you don't fuck with you, if your father ain't proud of you, if your mama said you ain't shit, I appreciate you. And I'm going to tell you why. Because you're a dumb bastard. I appreciate you because you're dumb enough to make fun of the 2,000 people watching this live stream, but you're one of them. I appreciate you because you're a complete idiot, and it is wise for a successful man to suffer fools gladly. That's what Benjamin Franklin says. He says, suffer fools gladly, which is to say, when someone does something foolish, they're a fool. You don't argue with them. I mean, what would it look like to argue with a person who's mentally retarded, right? So the best thing you can do is enjoy them. And I want to say, I thank you because I really enjoyed your comment. So you are appreciated. This was good. Wow. Boy, it's sad. There's some real mentally ill people here. If I don't like someone, I just ignore them or stay away from them or try to put them down. I don't mean like insult them. I mean, put them down in a literal sense. That's just me, though.
So Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan have left prison in Bucharest. They have been moved to house arrest this evening after a Romanian court overturned prosecutors' request to keep them in police custody until late April. Let's just keep listening to see if they say anything in English.
Honestly, if I walk out, my first thought would be, where the hoes at? Like, where the hoes at? I need butt naked hoes. I'm curious to see if they learned Romanian how they learned there. 3 months of intensive Romanian studies.
Here.
My boy Andrew looks disturbed in the face.
So Andrew Tate, the social media influencer, and his brother really saying very little to the press, leaving it to a translator and a legal representative to speak in Romanian to the awaiting press. Andrew Tate, his brother Tristan, and two Romanian female suspects have been under police detention now since December the 29th, as prosecutors investigate them for suspected
There's like
human
one kid
trafficking,
with a cell phone
rape,
behind him.
and forming a criminal gang in order to sexually exploit women. They have denied all the accusations. The judges from the appeal court in Bucharest admitted their appeal.
It was actually quite smart. I just muted that because we don't want to get flagged for copyright. At this point, the Tate brothers are not saying anything. Obviously, they're currently in the car and they're about to drive away. One of the things that I think is very strategic on their part is the fact that they didn't say much coming out. That's actually very strategic. They didn't display any hubris, arrogance, any cockiness, any negativity, because what we have to remember is that this is a battle one. This is not the war one. And they still actually have to, they're going to be charged. We know that. And they're going to have to go into court. And they need to remember strategically that pretty much anything you say can and will be used against you. And not only will this be in the court of law, this will also be in the court of public opinion. And for that reason, they need to be very strategic about how they move going forward. So that was wise. Now, why their attorney was wearing a strange, like blue colored jacket instead of like keeping it gangster, black and simple, I don't know. But I also think Andrew hasn't done himself any favors, because one thing we need to remember is that there are a number of biases that exist in this world. And when you've converted to Islam, and you've said that I've done nothing but do push-ups and read the Quran, you've basically pointed out that you have done all of the things that make you like public enemy number one for the establishment. You're doing a bunch of push-ups. This is a hyper masculine activity. I mean, after all, you're already in prison. So you're doing a hyper masculine activity in a place where pretty much puppies are going to be eaten. So that is just re-emphasizing why you're there, because you are the representative of masculinity in the modern era. Furthermore, you said all I did was read Quran. Okay, well, let's think about the nature of the persons who hate Andrew Tate. These are persons who are LGBTQ. These are persons who are hyper liberal. These are persons who hate patriarchy. And what is Islam about? Islam is about patriarchy. Islam is about heterosexuality, family, and all those things that make him a bigger demon to the left, right? And it's ironic to say that the left views anyone as a demon when they're entirely demonic themselves. So Tate isn't doing himself any favors when he's associating publicly with Islam. And for those of you who are Muslim, you may be aware that there is provision for when you are under attack of an enemy, you actually do not have to declare that you're a Muslim. There's actually a provision for that. And I think that he'd probably be wise, not saying that he should hide it, but he shouldn't highlight it right now, because that's only going to add to the difficulty of him, getting out of this situation. And I think he's better to all of us outside of prison rather than inside of prison. For those of you who have questions, comments, thoughts, please do send them now via Cash App or PayPal, and do forgive me. I'll put that there for those of you who have thoughts and comments and want to engage in this conversation. We should also be asking ourselves, what is he going to do now? Is he going to comply with basically the order to sit still? Or is he going to do the opposite and try to dip? And the question is, what would you do? What would your mother have you do? What would your wife have you do in this situation? Is he going to get justice in Romania? And I think that is really the question that, we all are wondering right now. Because the idea that if you're guilty of something, that it would take a whole government, when the world is watching, it would take 3+ months for them to gather up evidence. I would suggest that there's a lack of evidence. So we shall see. May I acknowledge, looks like Donovan. Yes, indeed. I see Donovan, true to his word, said that he purchased Boston University. He did indeed. I acknowledge Marcos, who just went to manandwomanbrand.com and got himself some drip. So shout out to the Saints wearing the apparel that represents man and woman, you dig? Because Lord knows a lot of people represent that LGBTQ flag. So we need to represent family, the unity of man and the unity of woman. Beautiful thing. May I also acknowledge SAS Consultant, who just became a member at patreon.com/the Saint in the Center. Shout out to Kevin, who came in with support via Cash App. May I also acknowledge Jamal supporting via Cash App, as well as George sends in tuition. Shout out to Javier, who writes Peace to the Saints via Cash App. Rudolph, he writes, appreciate you, sir, tuition, peace to the Saints. I also acknowledge Isaac, who also just who just purchased Boss University, which is on pre-sale now. It'll go live in 26 days. And I also acknowledge Altitude, who came in with tuition by a Cash App. Shout out to Tyree as well, who came in with tuition by a Cash App. Omari writes, speaking of sunglasses, are the Sasson sunglasses coming back? My Ray-Bans were stolen out of my car, and I'd rather buy some new ones from the Sasson than anyone else if possible. I'm actually glad you mentioned that, and that comes perfectly with this Tate Live, because one of the issues that Tate has is I'd love to see him organize a proper security apparatus. And, I'd volunteer my services to help him because, as you guys know, within the Saint in the Center Nation, we do have a proper security apparatus. If you're at boot camp, our most recent boot camp in Las Vegas, we had a security expert come and train everyone up. That being the case, if I were to be released from prison, you're going to see a bunch of black suits there. You heard me. You're going to see our security personnel. Media is not going to be anywhere near me, only the persons we permit. And that's one of the things that Tate is missing. They don't have a proper security apparatus to secure him. And I think they really do need that. I say that to say this as a part of the security uniform. Mind you, we got a double-breasted black suit that's in production right now for the security. And we're also going to have a beautiful dark black eyeglass, sunglass for the security force. So give us a little bit of time. We're going to get that out. You know me, I wear $2,000-$3,000 sunglasses. So we're about to make sure that this is something that I can happily wear. So you're going to be very pleased. Give us a little bit of time. May I acknowledge Brandon. He writes, question in the chat. Brandon, please go ahead and post that question again. And anyone who sees that question, please grab it and repost it so that I can read the question. We have a lot of people in the live chat, a couple thousand. So it'll be just a touch harder. Shout out to Chris. He writes, would you dip to Dubai or somewhere else if in the PJ, if you were in Tate's position? So he's saying in the private jet. So if I was in Tate's position, it all depends on my level of connection and my level of certainty in terms of where I'm going. Will they extradite me? Do they have extradition treaties with this particular government? Will they fold under public pressure? Are they friendly or easily controlled by the West? I have a song you can check out on Spotify called Petty Hustlers. And he said, I keep relationships with petty dictators because I'm convinced haters will get me pinched later, which is to say that if you don't have a relationship with the guy who's running the country and it's super solid, well, you might go there only to be extradited. And then that's going to compound your problems. You see, if Tate stays in Romania and fights the case from Romania, who knows if he'll get justice. But if he leaves and flees to Dubai, to UK, to anywhere, then that is a suggestion that he's guilty. In reality, he's really just trying to get a fair shake in terms of a trial, but it's a suggestion that he might be guilty, which I don't think that is the case, but that's the way that the prosecution would spin it, and that's the way those who hate him would portray it. So we have to know that that's going to be the case. So I would advise him to be thoughtful about that. If he is to make an exit, it would certainly have to be a well-selected location, a location that welcomes him and will protect him. May I acknowledge Mogul Minds Network. He writes, Peace of Saints. What a good day to network with saints in my city, Chicago. Oh, what's a good way? I want to build a stronger network of good men. Oh, bro, we have a section there in Chicago. So I highly recommend you reach out to Saint Flows. If you're a member at patreon.com/the Saint in the Center or marquettism.com, once you go through new member orientation, which will be occurring shortly, you can join our private Discord for the members only. Saint Flows is there, and Saint Flows can get you connected with everyone. He's the executive in that region. So you dig? Like we organize out here, bruh. Yes, sir. We love to get you plugged in. Happily. Just going through right now. Like we have a lot of Muslims in the chat. Ramadan Kareem to the Muslims. We'll be fasting. Money Mindset writes, I'm of the time in which our uncles were locked up and even sent to Guantanamo Bay under zero evidence in a real way. The kuffar have always been against us, but we always have been against us, but we always have been solid. Can't phase a real G in this dunya. Yeah, man, it's ongoing war between good and evil. Let's say that. It is ongoing war. And shout out to those who are fighting, not only the external enemies, but also fighting within themselves, such that they are not lazy, weak, dishonest, and all those other things. Brandon, I'm keeping an eye out for your question right now. If anyone sees Brandon's question, go ahead and pop it up. He says all Sasson sunglasses are sold out. Okay, there we go. Saddle. So I will get some sunglasses design, something black, something gangster. Brandon writes, what are the topics you tend to circle back to with females? I'm personally grasping at straws after 15 to 30 minutes. Also, what are the steps that elevate one's charm besides intent listening? These are good questions. Number one of the challenges you're going to experience in trying to have intellectual conversation with the average woman is she's not an intellectual. So don't try that. You don't want to set up a trap for yourself, which is to say, when you're in a particular environment, like say if you take her to dinner, bad move, because there's not enough stimulus. There's not enough stimulus. If you do something with her, you want to do something where you're in motion, you're in physical motion. It's not heavily reliant on conversation. That's number one. Then number two, there are a number of things that can help you gamify the conversation. For example, on the Dr. Phil questions, there are a couple of questions there that are more on the game side of things. Anytime you can engage guessing games, like for example, one thing I'll do is I'll say, hey, like, don't look, but I'm like, this couple over to my left, you see them? Okay, the guy and the girl, great. I want you to tell me what their profile is. Tell me what you think his and her name are, how they met, and what their job is. And then she'll say, oh, I think her name is Jenny and his name is Carl. And they met at a car wash and he is an accountant and she is a soccer player. And then you go back and forth, you joke, you have fun. You're like, no, I don't. How's this guy an accountant? Look at his shoes. He's wearing purple shoes. Why would an accountant wear, and so you go and you joke through. You're not actually having meaningful or serious conversation with the female. You're using the conversation to engage her in terms of laughter, joy, thoughtlessness, lightness, ease. You want her to be in that position where she's not thinking. The moment a female has to think, the vagina is drying up. It's drying up rapidly. So that's not what you want. Thank you for that question, Saint, and wishing you much success. I acknowledge Austin. He writes, did you remove the live from the blade on Patreon? No, I think we might have renamed it, but it's still there on all of the websites. So live from the blade, kicking a little bit of game at these street strollers. No, that's still there. I think we might have organized it into a series, probably lessons from a P, and I think it has like 3 episodes on it. Shout out to VAR, came in by a Cash App supporting the work. Appreciate you. But no, that's absolutely still there. That's classic stuff right there. We can never take that down. Acknowledge Joshua via PayPal. He writes, I receive a lot of grief for repping the ism and putting respect on your name, especially from my own family. They can't stand you or the ism. When I see this type of hate, I know you're doing something right. Peace to the saints. Mr. Malave. It gets like that. And the funny thing is you will know the nature of someone's heart based on the things that affect them and how it affects them. You see, if someone, like, for example, you see there's some psychopaths who come in this chat just to say something negative about Andrew Tate. We know that these people are not mentally well. These are wicked people. You see, if there was a live stream about someone I didn't like, I wouldn't join the live stream to create havoc and to create trouble. That's a very wicked mentality. That's a troublemaker's mentality. And when you hear the philosophies of someone who would tell you, don't drink alcohol, don't smoke cigarettes, don't engage in caffeine, Don't use sweets. Work out every day for 30 minutes, 30 minutes of sweat every day. Exercise is prayer. Sweat is the holy water. When they tell you things that uplift you and someone would disagree with those things, you know that you're clearly dealing with someone who is wicked, someone who would not only destroy you, but destroy themselves with their own vices. Shout out to none of the above. He writes, I've noticed several colleagues leaving my current job in the last 2 months. Should I start planning my exit? I've been here for less than a year. Well, one, you don't want to stand around guessing. The master Sun Tzu states that prior information enables. Prior information, meaning intelligence, enables. So you should be asking yourself, well, why haven't I talked to these colleagues and figured out why they're leaving, right? That's a question. And also, you have to figure out what your path is, what your goals are. So, are your goals aligned to staying at this particular corporation and advancing? If they are, then stay. If your goals are more so circled around income, then maybe there's better opportunities for you. But I'd ask those folks why they left out. See if I could hear that last bit of what Tristan was saying after they were released. Let's see. So strange that one of the news agencies did not have their volume on. Extraordinarily strange. Yeah, still not having the volume. We'll have to catch it on the playback. But yeah, congratulations to Top G. He's a free man. Shout out to Mr. Henderson. He writes, Peace of the Saints, is a career in Amazon Web Services a good field for the future considering AI is growing? Yeah, absolutely. Because what's not going to happen is Amazon is not going to allow AI to destroy their business. So when you're in a future oriented corporation such as Amazon, which is generally bleeding edge, what's going to happen is that they're going to retool their workforce, and they're also going to adapt their core capacities to address the economy of the future. And they're of course going to utilize AI. These are the type of corporations that use AI. So when you're in one of the larger or faster paced corporations, you're in a Meta, you're in an Amazon, you're in a Shopify, you're going to be on the bleeding edge of this stuff. So it's much better to seek to adapt to the economy of the future while within a fast growth tech corporation, as opposed to being in school, because you have to remember that the schooling system is always a couple steps behind industry, always. And if you're a software engineer, you know this for a fact because you went to school, then you got out of university and you applied for a job, and much of what you probably do today in your software engineering job you learned on the job. So the university will give you some footing, but it's not going to give you everything that you need to actually be effective in your job. I acknowledge none of the above. He writes, I kept the first SC concise. I'm not sure what that means. A lot of it being underpaid, undervalued, and not having a voice in the company. Besides the money, I agree with him. Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Well, yeah, if those grievances are not common to you, then you have no reason to leave. But if those grievances are common to you, then you should be looking for your next better opportunity. But let me give everyone some advice. If you're at a job, you should never not be looking for something better. You should always be looking for something better, even if you like your job, because it provides you a negotiating chip, which is to say that you can go to your employer and say, hey, I love this job and I'd like to advance to this job title or to this pay level. And these three other corporations, which are of comparable size, they've offered me this salary, they've offered me these perks and these benefits, but I really like my job. And I just like to be able to match up this value that they're offering. So would you be willing to match their offer in terms of salary? So you should always be looking at that. It's called ambition. And more importantly, it's called you looking out for yourself, because at the end of the day, if you don't look out for yourself, I can promise you the corporation ain't going to do it for you. Yeah, no, that corporation is not asking, the corporation is not asking itself every day, like, I wonder, what is in Marquette's future? I wonder what Marquette's goals are. No, corporation cares nothing about that. Shout out to Kendall. He writes, I asked in the Discord as well, so feel free to ignore it here. I think SaaS and business cards could make sense for sure. And so that's something that we could cook up. You'd have to let me know what you mean about virtual business cards. So tell me a little bit more about that. I remember, I'm not going to say the name, but I remember when Tate was first arrested, an individual I know said that they thought it was all staged. They said that they thought Tate was being arrested and he had staged the arrest for publicity. I think one thing we can say after him having been locked up for a couple months is like he probably ain't staged this. Like this is the real deal. You know, he was really being persecuted, and his persecution is not over. And I think we'd be wise to not celebrate prematurely, but to, you know, to hold steady as men should, probably without much emotion. I may acknowledge Reggie, who just purchased a patch from assassinbrand.com. He also purchased the varsity jacket from Saint Named Greatness. I acknowledge Salvador. He writes, what do you think about the collapse of the petrodollar? I think this is clearly something that is going to cause more warfare to occur, because Joe Biden has made a major mistake in terms of American economics today and for the future. Not only have we lost in terms of controlling and influencing oil-producing nations, we've also lost in terms of having access to critical resources of the future, which are mostly located in sub-Saharan Africa. Even the Russians have more influence than America in sub-Saharan Africa. And we're overly concerned with irrelevant things like LGBTQ. For example, Uganda just recently passed very righteous laws preventing individuals from even identifying as LGBTQ. I believe Kenya will soon do something to repeal the ability of LGBTQ lobbyists to organize. And basically what America said to Uganda is, we're going to put economic sanctions on you if you continue exercising democracy and the will of your people and representing your people's culture. We want you to represent American, Western, decadent, filthy, immoral culture. And so while America focuses on that, China goes into the Congo and extracts tremendous amounts of resources, the kind of resources that are utilized to create cell phones, to create the batteries that go into electric vehicles and much else. And as a result, we're losing influence and we're creating bad blood in the African continent. And even the Russians have gone into nations like Central African Republic, and they've helped stabilize the governments there by providing mercenaries and private security forces. So America has been very backward, particularly during Joe Biden, but this has actually been something that's been occurring for the last half century, that we've really lost our foothold in sub-Saharan Africa. And we really never did a great job at it. That's mostly been the territory of the European, and they've exercised some neo-colonial influence, but that's been dying down. And so we really have to get a strong foothold on there if we want the dollar to be strong, if we want the American economy to strong, if we want to maintain American global hegemony. In the absence of doing that, we're going to suffer. And truth be told, we're going to have to go to warfare to recover influence in the Middle East and to recover influence among oil-producing nations. We're going to have to use force, because clearly if we allow choice, well, the choice is clear. The choice is that they don't want to use the dollar to back oil sales. They don't want to use the dollar in international commerce. And that's really going to cause our economy and our future to be at great risk. And so while we use our army for foolish pursuits like this Ukrainian war, or various protracted wars in the Middle East, we need to start using our army to, bolster our economy. Right now, our military deployments, which are in excess of 200 throughout the world, are basically crumbling our economy. And this was predicted by Che Guevara many years ago. He said the way we will destroy America is to create many little Vietnams, which is to say to have their army and their military forces spread so thinly that they all collapse in protracted wars and battles that they can't win because there's too many theaters of war and there's too much resource expenditure. And I'm afraid that's what's happened today, but it hasn't happened at the hands of an organized force. It's happened because of our own folly and lack of adequate leadership. Thank you for that question, Saint. Brandon, let me know if you came back with a second question. I see you sent in a second super chat. Let me know if you have a second question. I'll be keeping an eye out for it. Yes, indeed. And if you haven't already, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. We have tremendous amounts of great information on the topics of health, wealth, and relationships. So mastering money and mastering women, you dig? And I do believe that's what most of us are in pursuit of. Let's be honest. Ultra 4K, where did you send your, it says super chat, where did you send your tuition to? I don't think I see that. I acknowledge Neo supporting the work. I may have missed it, Ultra 4K, if you would just let me know where to look. I just want to honor everyone at the same level. And my curiosity is when Andrew Tate does actually go live, is he going to go live on his own channel? Is he going to go live on Rumble? Is he going to go live on Twitter? Where will he go live? Oh, we have more stupidity here. This guy first, he says, bro, I'm not your brother. So number one, I'm not your brother. And if you are going to write this sentence, you would write bro, comma, and then you would write what you have to say. So number one, I'm not your brother. I will never be your brother. He writes, why you mocking Muslims? No one's mocking Muslims. You're an imbecile. And he says, and you're saying, where the hoes at when you know he's Muslim? Obviously, you're an imbecile because we're talking about an individual who's run a cam girl web service. We're also talking about an individual who speaks of sexual and physical exploits with females all of the time, and an individual who smokes cigars and drinks alcohol. I mean, come on, you're a complete imbecile. It's really a pity to see someone so stupid. But if you would like to represent yourself, I will provide you a link so that you can come on screen and explain how you think I was mocking Muslims. I would be more than happy to have that discussion. Although I don't practice Islam, I believe I've probably brought more people to the deen of Islam than any non-Muslim that you could name. So you're an imbecile, and I'd be happy for you to come on screen and reveal yourself to be an imbecile. So I will permit you that bit of clout. Oh, by the way, aside from the imbeciles, shout out to the geniuses. And we know they're geniuses because they're balling. Shout out to the ballers. Shout out to Stephen. He writes, happy Friday. Oh, that's boss talk. The man said, I just got it like that. Happy Friday. Juma Mubarak to the Muslims. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Now let's see if the big mouth fellow has the wherewithal to come represent himself. We see consistently that the people with big mouths, they have small hearts. Let's see if he's going to come on screen or just keep talking. Oh, it looks like he just wants to keep talking. Shocker. 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 Says, are you Muslim? I am not Muslim. I just follow the ism. You dig? The ism is beautiful and pure, for it is simple, and it is something that all peoples can follow, whether they're Christian, Muslim, atheist, Jewish, or otherwise. Shout out to Habib ZK Salami. He writes, peace to the saints. Getting my UI UX business going as part of a bigger plan to establish a multimedia company in Los Angeles. Any tips for eating up market share, especially locally? Writing ebook to do just that. Thank you. Firstly, I always ask myself, how can I be direct with whatever I'm doing, except women, right? But generally speaking, how can I be direct? So in some cases, people have these complex schemes. They're like, okay, I'm going to write an ebook and I'm going to sell the ebook, and then the ebook is going to bring people to my UI UX business. Okay. Well, is there a quicker route to your customers? So that'd be the first question I would ask myself if I were you. Number one, is there a quicker route to my customers? Number two, when you're creating a business, the question is, what is your unique value add? You're in Los Angeles. This is a city that is very much so based on media. So you have to do something unique. The question is, who's my target audience? Am I producing UI UX for a certain particular type of customer base? If so, that makes it much easier to market, to run ad units and things like that. So the first thing I would ask myself, if I were you, number one, what is my unique value add? Which is, what are people trying to buy from me? What is it that I do better than any other business in Los Angeles? Something that I'm uniquely skilled to do. What is that thing? Number one, what's my unique value add? And then number two, who is my early adopter? What is the fairly clear, easily definable demographic of customers, whether they're individual customers or businesses who want to buy what I'm selling? Like, for example, I'll give you an example of my early adopter. The persons who are my early adopters, as a YouTuber called The Saint in the Center, these are males 18 to 25. That's my early adopter, males 18 to 25. And it gets deeper than that, right? You can be more granular, but those are the basics in questions. And also, you're writing an ebook. I don't necessarily recommend that, because generally in a business, all activities should be guided toward the dollar. And even your marketing activities, you should ask yourself, how do I track how this marketing activity leads to a dollar or a conversion, a sale? In the case of an ebook, well, it seems as though maybe you're going to be giving out the ebook for free to drive traffic to your website, to convert sales. But the question is, well, how much money can I make from the ebook? Would it maybe be smarter to find 10 potential clients and give them a hard sale? And the question is, if I give them the hard sale, is it via phone? Is it via email? Is it in person? And if they're not taking the hard sell, then maybe I can give them a trial usage of my services. Hey, we're going to create this piece of marketing collateral for you, or this piece of content, or the first 3 screens on your mobile application for free. And if you like it, then do this deal with us. So I think that there are a lot of things that you probably want to look into, because you're going into one of the most competitive markets in the world for what you're doing. If you need a consultation, you can book one at marquettism.com, and you might need one. You might need one. And also, I just want to encourage you, one, never anticipate success in any business. Number two, it's great to have a big vision, but the question is, what are you hyper focusing on today that's going to pay? Today that's going to pay. I'm serious about business, and if you're going to do business, you need to be serious about business as well. And the smartest thing you could possibly do in business is to get expert advice, and I'll tell you why. Because you're going to expend a lot of emotion, heartache, disappointment, your family and friends doubting you. You're going to expend a lot of money. I've raised millions of dollars in businesses that didn't make millions of dollars. Which is, say, I collected millions of dollars from investors, and then I wasn't able to make that business turn out any money. Then I was able, once I figured out business, to create a good revenue model, which is to say, how do you make sales and bring in money? I didn't even really need to raise that much money anymore, because I understood so well how to convert a dollar. The question is, how can you either get that experience and knowledge really quickly, which is nearly impossible, or how can you get someone else who has it to put you on the right road to get things done? We don't have all day out here. And I'm wishing you much success. May the Saints all wish him much success on this new venture. Kegley writes, peace to the Saints. It's a pleasure to catch the stream and witness you eloquently take down these haters. I appreciate your work. It's really easy, to be honest with you, because they're all cowards and weaklings. So it's quite easy to punch the living daylights out of a weakling or a coward verbally. Shout out to Mr. Xavier. He writes, the right needs to understand that the left is already violent. Correct. Trump arrested. Correct. UK arrested over 3K people for a hate speech last year. Oh, that's crazy. Time to fight back. Absolutely. I agree. We are in revolutionary times, and we are so docile. And it's ironic that people would call themselves savages. To me, you're not a gangster until you're willing to shoot at the authorities. That's gangster. Shooting at each other. No. That's silliness. That's petty. Shooting at the authorities. That's gangster. That's savage. Until you're willing to fight the powers that be, that is when we know that your manhood is in hand. And I'll tell you why. Patrick Henry said, give me liberty or give me death, which is to say, allow me my freedom. And if you don't, there will be death, whether it's mine or yours, because I'm going to fight you tooth and nail. Gentleman says that it was on YouTube. Okay, I'm going to take you at your word, Saint. And he writes, please talk about VE of being fat and how people treat you worse. I think, Saint, and I need to hear the truth rather than. Got you. Look, I often remind people to be serious. So it sounds as though you're struggling with a weight issue. And recently I was injured and I wanted nothing more than to be able to exercise. But I had 2 injuries that were significant enough that I couldn't exercise. I say that to say this. You can look for external motivations, but it won't sustain. You have to be able to manipulate the self, your own psyche. There are 2 ways to do that. As you noted, pain and pleasure, which is pull and push. The pleasure of being more desirable, the pleasure of having people look at you and respect you and regard you and admire you, or the pain of women looking at you and looking at your soggy, soft, flabby, disgusting body and being repulsed and not wanting you and maybe even making fun of you behind your back. And you feeling unconfident to talk to her because you know that you are a pathetic, disgusting individual with a lot of fat tissue, which makes you more like a woman, reduces your testosterone, increases your hormones that make you resemble the female. Now, look, if you are described by what I just said, you're in a very low state, especially if you're a young man. And by young man, I mean younger than 50. You're young. You can still pretty much do anything you ever wanted to do if you're in peak physical condition. You don't know how many more days you have. There was a saint that we all know, Daniel John. He passed away of cancer in his 20s. Let me tell you something about Daniel John. He was a real man. You see, he started a business, and even on his dying day, literally, on the day he died, he was returning customer service emails about his product, running his business, though that would be his last day. He was a strong man. He was bedridden. He would have given anything to have your able body. You should be disgusted with yourself to be overweight. It is a pathetic low state. It is not only a representation of you, it's a representation of the failings of your parents. But guess what? Clearly, your parents ain't shit. It is what it is. But now that you're an adult, you're responsible for what you do. If you were a fat kid, that's because your parents wasn't shit. But now that you're an adult, you're responsible. To be a fat man is a disgusting, despicable, low state. And I encourage you to change that. And that doesn't mean you have to go and run a marathon tomorrow. That means that you have to go out tomorrow morning and do something. If you can only run 10 steps, run 10 steps tomorrow, run 20 steps the day after. I highly recommend you get Boss University because it will be necessary for someone like you. Be very necessary. It'll be quite complete in terms of how it addresses life in totality. I hate to say this harshly, but it sounds as though you need harshness and you would want the truth. It really does sadden me to hear that you're overweight, though, because you can't function at peak and no one respects you. And what's worse, you don't respect yourself. It's a slow suicide is what you're doing. You're killing yourself. Carrying on. Oh, what happened to that one guy? He never came on the stream. The guy who said we were disrespecting Muslims. Where'd he go? Brandon writes, how do I fast track my boxing training? Coach had me sparring only jabs the other day. Been training for 3 weeks, and although I busted my opponent's lip, I do say my boxing skills are disappointing. Oh, of course they are. It takes time. This is, in fact, there was a ranking among a major sports organization, and they ranked boxing as the most difficult sport of all sports. So this is a sport that requires skill, toughness, focus, agility, reflexes, conditioning, and you name it. So don't expect to be amazing tomorrow. In terms of fast tracking, the best thing you can do is get with a coach who actually cares about the small things, which is the technique and the details of how you're physically moving. And he's going to force you to perfect the movements of a boxer, the movements, which will then translate into reflexes. And you have to remember that boxing has a number of schools of thoughts and a number of styles. There's the peekaboo style, there's the Philly shell. There are all these different fighting styles that you can utilize. Find a fighting style that makes sense for your size and your physical makeup, and then find a boxing coach who's hyper attentive to these details, train every single day, get in sparring with partners that are at a similar skill level, maybe just a little bit better. But if they're too much better, you're getting the snot beaten out of you for no good reason. You're not learning because you're in a state of constant panic as you're in there. Chris writes, would you consider doing a live on the different mindsets required for each level of financial success? Six-figure mindset, millionaire mindset, billionaire mindset. I think that that's a bit mythical in as much as the mindset is essentially of a hustler, right? So it's question number one is like, the first thing is, do you have the hustler's mindset, which is like, do you have the ambition to pursue greater things? That's the rudiment. That's the root. Number two is, do you have strategy? So first one is motivation. It's the gasoline. Do you have the gasoline? The second one is the car. Do you have the car that can get you there, which is a strategy, right? A Toyota can only get you so far so fast. A Ferrari is going to get you there a lot faster, right? That's the strategy. Do you have the best of strategy that can allow you to ascend the different income strata? So when we're talking about the difference between a six-figure millionaire and billionaire, a person who can make six figures can easily make $1 million. The only question is, do they have the gasoline and the strategy? The person who's made $1 million can for sure make $1 billion. Now, mind you, there's a much bigger gap between $1 million and $1 billion than there is 100,000 and $1 million. Then there is 100,000 and $1 million. But the only question is, do you have the strategy and the motivation? Here's what I really want you guys to pay attention to. Listen closely. If you're not yet a millionaire, you don't need a millionaire mindset. You need a six-figure mindset. If you're not yet a billionaire, you don't need a billionaire mindset. You might need to first get to the millionaire. And what I'm saying to you is this: wherever you're at, you need to hyper focus on what's next. The greatest challenge in the human mind is focus. When you're thinking about things that are too big, it's unrealistic. If you've never made $100,000 and you're currently making 30,000, talking about having a millionaire mindset, it doesn't even register what a millionaire lifestyle is, what a millionaire work ethic is. You don't even have a conception of what that kind of money means. You haven't even made six figures. So you need to move with realism, and you need to get good guidance to get to the next level and then capture the lessons that are at that level. But I highly recommend people who are like well under the six-figure mark or not trying to figure out how to be a millionaire. You need to figure out how to get a steady income and be a six-figure earner. And if there's more on that you want to send me in terms of like specifically what you need, feel free. And I am creating a course right now called Boss University. And what you'll notice is that once you go through the course, if you can actually successfully do some of these items on the business side of the course addresses a number of things: self-development, routines, peak performance, relationships, women, business, entrepreneurship, pricing strategy, raising investment capital, pretty much everything you should need for life. But if you can do those things correctly in a business, scaling to $1 million will happen very, very quickly. Like it'll be astounding, trust me. And you'll find that you'll never go a single day without making money. Consumer businesses. Joshua writes, Mr. Malave writes, have you seen the robots being produced by companies like Boston Dynamic? What are your thoughts? I think I saw this like a while back, Boston Dynamics. I think that we always have to ask ourselves about how it's going to strike the consumer market and what's the price point of the product and what's the utility of the product. For example, in my home downstairs, we have a vacuuming robot. So on a schedule, we've mapped out the downstairs, and the robot will go around the downstairs to the places on the map, and it will vacuum. And we'll have another one that does mopping, like kind of like wets the floor and washes it and dries it. But I realize that these things are unlikely to become commonplace in the near term because they're very expensive. So it requires persons who have a high disposable income to get that product. And also, when you ask yourself, well, what is the true utility we're getting over, using a vacuum cleaner or a mop? Well, most people don't have like a downstairs as big as mine. So it's a very small number of persons who are going to have something like this. And I'll tell you why. People who have big houses like mine, they can afford to hire cleaning staff, right? Or like a maid service. So to have a robot vacuum or a robot mopping thing, it's not really useful or smart or necessary because they can hire some woman to come in and do their cleaning. The people who have bigger houses than mine, like a mansion, they for sure are hiring individuals to come in and do the cleaning. The people who have smaller houses than mine, well, they don't have as much money, so they're going to clean their house themselves or have their children clean the house. So when you're looking at a product, you have to ask yourself who is going to buy it. Is the price point appropriate, and is the market size large enough? Those are always things that I'm looking at as a businessman. You might say, "Well, Marquette, why did you buy the vacuum cleaner when you also have people who clean your home?" Well, I bought it because I'm in technology and I like to see how these things work, and what the errors, what the issues are with the software and the hardware. I'm just a fascinated person. This is my industry, so I buy these things. Like, for example, I have an Apple Watch as well, which I also have a lot of other watches that I enjoy that are my real watches, but I bought an Apple Watch because I'm always interested in like what kind of mobile applications are well suited for the watch, and what kind of data is the watch taking from your vitals, heart rate, and all these other things, motion. How is it interacting with your physical vitals and feeding that data into the applications, and which applications are displaying, and how do they render on such a small screen? I'm thinking about this as a businessman. So I say that to say robotics companies and another of other verticals are still like, there's certain kinds of AI. And if you guys haven't seen my bid on the Chat GPT and artificial intelligence, I highly recommend it. It's on the Saint channel if you haven't seen it. These things are not yet ready for mass market because they've not found a Steve Jobs to position it well in the psyche of the customer. Yes, indeed. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. We got some good game over here that will benefit you. He writes, "Thank you, Marquette. Thank you for the love and the truth. Down from 110 kg to 98 kg. Goal is 75 kg, 10% of body fat." And to be honest with you, I've lost a lot of weight for boxing matches. Like there was one time I lost like 20 pounds in 2 weeks. It's extremely unpleasant, extremely, because when I lost that 20 pounds, I was in peak condition. I didn't really have any weight to lose. It was core body weight that I was losing. But I say that to say the following to you. During that time, I never once was looking at my body fat percentage and all this other crap. The problem is we get into this feminine thinking, oh, what's my, like, you're looking at so many details. This is what women do. They consider everything in concert. A good leader needs to hyper focus on the most critical metrics, ideally one metric, which is, am I fast? Am I strong? Am I trim? You can see that from visual inspection. You don't need to see your body weight, your body fat percentage. If you're in good physical shape, like I can stand up right now and pull up my shirt and you can look at my abs and you're like, I don't know what body weight percentage that is, but homie's abs are strong. Like you feel me? Like you don't need to know. So the question is, are you overwhelming yourself with unnecessary data? Here's the key: eat less, which is meaning you're going to go into caloric deficit, work out hard consistently, eat good, healthy foods. Don't eat out, eat at home. And I have my diet, if you're wondering, for the members at patreon.com/the Saint in the Center or marquettism.com. It's my diet, great home cooked meals, lean meals, high protein, omega-3s, good food, natural food, raw foods, whole foods. And, when you're trying to, like, what I want to teach you guys is to kind of take some of my mindset, which is the idea that bring a business mentality to what you're doing. So when I say you don't need to know all of the data, you don't need to know your body fat and, this and like, which way is the wind blowing? What's the barometric pressure? What's the wind chill? Like, you don't need to know 1,000 different things. You just need to eat less, eat better foods, and exercise vigorously every day consistently. That's the whole ball game. It's simple. The only part that's not simple is actually doing it. Shout out to Balmain. Cody, he writes, Mr. Plenty, first day out. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Saint ID writes, sold out Amazon product, the gym phone holder. Shout out to the Saints. You dig? They got consultations, they got products going, and they making money. Shout out to the real ones. If you want to boss up, marquettism.com. Actually, I'm giving a consultation tomorrow to one of the Saints. I'm looking forward to it. He writes, all organic sales. And that's even more beautiful. That means that he sold all of his inventory without having to run ad units. So he didn't have to pay to advertise. That's a really good product. He writes, new inventory just touched down in the States. Money Machine will be running again next week. Now, ideally, it don't ever stop. He writes, your consultations got me here. Peace to the Saints. Now, see, that's a beautiful thing. You heard me? We not just talking it, we walking it out here. And shout out to the Saint. He has a really good product. I was recently talking to someone, speaking well of your product. I'm very impressed. And I also want you all to know that success is not by accident. It's by design. Success is something you have to re-earn every day. It's fine that you were a millionaire last year, but if you're broke this year, you got to get back to work. And here's the key to life: consistency. I don't care how much money you earned. Work like you got nothing. This man did not create one product and boom, we're killing it. No, he's created several products. And that's what I tell guys. When you get a consultation, my goal with you is to take you through the full cycle. Ideation, which is coming up with which product do I sell? Prototyping, creating a sample or an example of the product. Sales, getting someone to give you $1, which involves pricing strategy. Marketing, which is to say, getting people to be aware of your product so they can actually buy it. Then customer service, which is to say people bought it. Maybe they need to change the size. Maybe there's an issue with the product. Maybe they have positive feedback, customer service, and then take you through this whole 5-part cycle as many times as possible, as quickly as possible, so that you've mastered the cycle so you can now apply it to any possible product and any possible business. You dig? Patreon.com/the Saint and the Sinner. Get that. Get those meal recipes and much else. Mayfield writes, just bought the course pre-sale. I could use some high-level motivation in my life. Very good, and you shall get it. And the beautiful thing is you'll have access to that course for all time, and I want you to go back through. I want you to read my book, The Black Box. I want you to reread it. I still reread it because it's great lessons that are good for all time. And here's the worst thing about human beings. We need reminder. That's why Muslims, they pray 5 times a day to be in the constant remembrance of God. You need to be in the constant remembrance of best practices for how do I thrive? How do I make myself a money machine? How do I make myself a woman magnet? How do I get the best out of life? How do I make my mentality strong so that I can go through this harsh world and take the best out of it? Because trust me, people are not trying to hand you the best. You got to take it. Yes, indeed. You can get the Black Box on paperback on Amazon. You can also get it on ebook there. I think it's a little lower cost on marquettism.com or on thesasn.com. Shout out to Salvador. He writes, posted in the comment, check Savior Dalai. Okay, let me see. Go ahead and post that again, Salvador, so I can grab that question. So Salvador, go ahead, post that question again when you get it. May I also acknowledge Walton just got 2 hoodies from mdblabel.com. That's funny. I actually just ordered the same one. I actually ordered mine in red. So he got his in green and blue from mdblabel.com. May I also acknowledge Richard, as he said, he just got Boston University on pre-sale. Smart man. And what I've done on Boston University is I've made an attempt when I make these kind of informational opportunities, whether it's a book or a course, I try to write it with the mentality that if I die, I want this to be complete. So I try to make it as complete as possible. I try to give out as much that I know and have lived as possible. So it'll be pretty complete. And one thing I'm going to do, which will be a pleasure of mine, is for the folks who get the pre-order, I'm going to go through the whole course with you, which will probably take like 8 hours at least. So what we'll do is I'm going to set up a webinar for all the folks who have purchased it in advance, and then we're going to go through the whole damn course, which might take 8 hours. So yeah, bring your protein water, Yerby. Yes, indeed. Saints, I'll give you some time to send in your comments, questions as we wind down. Okay, got another clip of Tate being released. Let's take a look.
Un pic mai așa. Rămâneți acolo. Dați un pic. Domnul avocat. Good luck, Tristan. Bună seara. Good luck, Andrew. I love you.
That boy Andrew came out looking like a motherfucking, like he just finished getting tortured in a goddamn. This man came out looking dead serious. I often encourage you all to be a serious man, and we cannot say the man did not come out looking serious. This man is serious in the heartbeat. His man has been through some stuff. Carrying on.
Okay.
God bless you, Andrew.
I just want to say that the judges today made the right decision. I respect what they've done for me, and they will be vindicated in their decision because I'm an innocent man and I can't wait to prove it.
Love you, Andrew. Love you guys. Karim, bro. Top G. Love you. We love you.
Domnul avocat, o declarație.
You hear the fans yelling out, I love you. We love you. Top G. Top G. I love you. We love you. And you know what? I usually say don't waste words and, be very thoughtful before you speak. And these cats yelling out, I love you, they might be dead serious about that. I'm going to just respect what they are saying because they may be dead serious about that. Habib writes, thank you. My unique value add is Web3 dev and digital marketing game. Does that mean I should focus on tech companies? UI UX is the right now hustle. Already have 2 clients, want ones that pay higher. Okay. So firstly, generally when you're looking at a unique value add, if you want to get good at something, you need to do one thing. If you want to be well marketed, you need to do one thing, which is say to be a one-trick pony, which doesn't sound glamorous, like, oh, it only does one thing. But remember, when Google came out, all it was a search engine, google.com. There's just a line for you to type in a search query. It didn't do anything else. There wasn't much else to it. When Facebook first started, it was just a wall. That's it. You just post on people's wall. That's it. Send a friend request, post on their wall. Remember, technologies start doing one thing exceptionally competently, and then because the consumer trusts you with that thing, they're willing to use other products and services that you offer. So, number one, when you say my unique value add is this and this, well, which is it? That's number one. Which is it? And when you say digital marketing, what does that mean? No one knows what that means. You need to be more precise, precision, and clarity. That I can't even trust you as a marketer because you're not representing what you are clearly. Let me give you an example of good marketing. For example, I have a 3-sentence Bible: be yourself, be good to yourself, be good to good people. That's going to beat the real Bible any day. That's going to beat the real Quran any day. Because if you go to a person who lives in the middle of nowhere and you said, hey, I want to teach you about 2 different ways of life. I want to teach you about the Bible from the Christians. Here's this thick ass volume that no one's read, and it's very complex, and it's written in allegory and metaphor. And then here's Marquettism. He has a Bible. It's 3 sentences: be yourself, be good to yourself, be good to good people. Which one's going to win? The simple one that everyone can remember. And most importantly, marketing means transmission. Other people can market my 3-sentence Bible because they fully understand and remember and comprehend. Simple. People can't market this other Bible. You got to go to Bible study, Bible classes, that's the difference between good marketing. So when you say you're doing digital marketing, like, what are you talking about? So is it Web3 dev or is it digital marketing? Which is your strong suit? That's number one. And number two, even within those 2 buckets, what specifically are we talking about? When you say, does that mean I should focus on tech companies? Well, let's consider this. If you have 2 clients and they're paying, that's a good thing. That's a beautiful thing. Congratulations. You're bringing money in. The question is, what do those 2 companies share, and why did they decide to pay you, those 2 clients? What made them want to work with you? And if you can identify common demographic traits between those 2 clients and possibly extrapolate, okay, I need to find more like them who perhaps have more cash liquidity to start getting things rolling. That's what I would do, which is to say that success leaves clues. Where you've already been successful is a clue to where you may be successful in the future. Thank you for that question, Saint. And I don't want to be abrasive. I just want to really encourage you to be sharp about what you're doing in business. Matthew writes, hey, Marquette, hope you're doing well. What can I expect from the upcoming All Saints meeting? I just joined on Patreon 2 weeks ago. Congratulations. May we all welcome Matthew to this thing of ours. Really do. Please welcome him. Number one, for the All Saints meeting, it's a great opportunity for the membership at large to get a chance to become familiar with one another. Of course, each region has their own section. We have the European Saints. We have the South Florida Saints. We have the Chicago Saints. We have the Southern California Saints. We have the Bay Area Saints. We have the Las Vegas Saints and Saint City headquarters, and so on and so forth. All Saints meeting is where everyone comes together and, most importantly, gets to do a check-in on what are you working on. So, which is to say, one, what are you going through? What's your life like right now? And what are you going to? What are your pursuits? How can we help you as a support network? And so it's part social, part business, in as much as it's helping you move forward on your blue chip goals. And we hope to see you there. In fact, we hope to see everyone on the stream there. So if you're not a member at patreon.com/the Saint in the Center, please join this family. We welcome you, the real ones. Shout out to Kenneth. It's been a little while. Good to see you again. And one thing I want you guys to know is when you start a business, it might take a lot of time for you to figure out what you're doing, but you're going to know that you really get it in terms of what your business is, what your value offer is, or value add is, and what your revenue model is when you can say it in like one sentence. Saint says it's next Monday, All Saints meeting. Like, for example, I used to run a company called Fletch, very successful company. And if you were to say, well, what does Fletch do? Fletch does effortless attendance. Fletch does effortless attendance. Now, a consumer or potential buyer can ask me to elaborate, but that's simple. We do effortless attendance. Now, mind you, we created the vertical and we were the innovator in the space and we're the best in the space. When we say effortless attendance, we can take attendance for a 500-person lecture hall without anyone lifting a finger. That's what we do. We're the only company who can make that claim. We don't need you to buy any hardware. We can do that based on the hardware your students already have. Whether it's university issued iPads, whether it's their personal cell phone device, whatever the case is. Very simple. How much does it cost? $5 a student. Very simple. Simplicity is key. It helps the consumer understand the value they can potentially get from you. If you can't be simple, then you don't understand what you're doing. That's a clear telltale sign. I don't care what you're doing. You could be doing astrophysics. If you can't make it simple, you don't understand. And remember, you're the expert. The consumer's not the expert. You have to make it simple so they can understand, so they spend the dollar with you. Carrying on. Joshua's back via PayPal. He writes, yesterday I was having a conversation with a young man who lives in Canada about how I'm making money multiple times off of one project. We further spoke about him achieving his own business project. He then asked me for my advice. I tell him I'm no professional, but based on what you're telling me, it is probably wise to pay to consult a professional. He tells me he'd rather do it himself. Now, I can understand this is the mentality of people who are in poverty. And, the sad reality is that my grandmother, when I was a child, she would make this foolish statement, many foolish statements, one of which was the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. This is a discouraging statement, but there is truth in it in as much as, poverty reinforces poverty. If you have a poverty mindset, it's going to keep you poor. The saint further writes, I used consulting you as an example of fast tracking his success on business. He was not only stuck on the price of your consultations, but scared to be scammed not only by you, but by any business expert. Many valid points later about the validity of your services and mitigating risk on other professionals, and he still couldn't get with it. At the end of all that, I came to the conclusion that he was lost because that he was a lost cause, and I wasted my time trying to be helpful. Lessons from a loser, saints. Yes, indeed. And the funny thing is that it's okay. Like, it's meant to be. I truly believe some people have to lose for people to win. You dig? Somebody got to be a loser for somebody to be a winner. And you can't force a loser to be a winner. And that's why I'm thankful that A, I have secret knowledge that others don't have. And then B, the knowledge that is commonly available, most people still don't take action on it. You see, they have the right answers, but they're not willing to take action on the right answers. One thing, I was in that young man's same position. When I was early on in tech and in my business career, I thought I knew more than I knew, which is sad. This is what happens to young men. They're overly optimistic and ignorant. And number two, I was parsimonious when it came to making investments, not realizing that the greatest investment we have to make is in ourselves. And one thing I've realized in my maturity and in wealth is that money is the best thing to lose. You didn't lose any of the major L's. You didn't lose a limb. You didn't lose a loved one, and you didn't lose your life, and you didn't lose your health. So those things I just named cannot be replaced. Money can be replaced easily. So if you're going to become wealthy, you must know that you're going to have to risk capital. You're going to have to risk money to make money. And the truth is that not everyone is going to make money. They're not willing because they're stuck in their ways. And you're experiencing someone who's stuck in their ways. The reality is, if you want to become a great three-point shooter, yes, you could sit in the gym by yourself and shoot a bunch of three-point shots. But do you think if Steph Curry, if you could have a conversation with Steph Curry and do like an hour training session, that might change your life and it might make you a better three-point shooter much quicker because he's really, really, really good at it. And he's done it a lot longer than you have, and he's mastered it. So maybe he can tell you something that you didn't already know. Takes time. Carrying on. Thank you for sharing that. The major lesson for us is to not be that person, Shout out to Joshua. Came in with the baller alert. Joshua just came back to, man, it's prosperous. It's a beautiful thing. And the funny thing, Joshua, one of the major, I just want to, just among ballers, Yerby, just among ballers, let me tell you a secret. The reason I always price my products very high, one, because they're high quality, and I only want to make high quality stuff. I want to be in the luxury side of things. Anything I do, I want it to be luxury. I want it to be high quality. And number two, the reason I place my consultations at my appropriate market rate, I don't give any discounts, is because I don't want to talk to people who are low IQ, that is dumb. I don't want to talk to people who are not ambitious, who are not interesting people. Because when I'm talking to ambitious young men and young women, I know that if they take my advice, they're going to be successful, multimillionaires, and we'll be friends. We'll be able to enjoy the same things, the finer things in life. I don't want to waste time talking to people who will never make anything of themselves. I don't want to waste time becoming familiar with them, acquainted with them. So I don't want to give them a chance to talk to me. People who can't afford it. I don't want them to have a chance to talk to me. I want to be surrounded by truth, beauty, and wealth. You dig? Truth, beauty, and wealth. So as a attractive person, you have to filter out what's going to get to you. You dig? Yeah. As a valuable person, you got to filter out what's going to get to you. And one thing you guys are going to find out as you guys become more successful is that when you're a impoverished person or a middle class person or an average person, women are not approaching you. Yeah, my DMs stay flooded. Yeah, my DMs stay flooded with females. You dig? Yeah, I forget about them. And now my position in life has changed such that I have to filter them out. Before they were trying to filter me out. Now I'm filtering them out. And I do the same thing to men. I do the same thing to business opportunities and business partners. You always want to do that. And shout out to the Joshuas. The Joshuas be balling. You hear me? And shout out to the Joshuas. They be big balling. Carrying on. Dalton writes, I have 2 young girls. I got 2 young girls into me. One Filipina. Okay. One white. All right. All right. How should I vet them to see who's a better investment down the road? How to tell if she's going to gain weight after, if she'll stay submissive? So, number one, I'm presuming that you're asking about these 2 young ladies being potentials for a long-term main piece. That's number one. Number two, you want to consider culture, of course. You know, what culture do they come from? One thing I can say about Filipinos in general is fantastically kind people. The greatest export of the Philippines is their people, and they're very kind, friendly, easygoing, pleasant individuals. Comes from a good culture. Now, in terms of morality, I wouldn't say the morality is terribly strong in the cities like Manila and things of this nature because they very much so have an acceptance of the LGBTQ, similar to Thailand. So there's that. Of course, white girl, if she's a white girl from a major city in the United States or the West, similarly, her morals will be called into question. So that's number one. I don't think either of them from a cultural standpoint necessarily has a given advantage. Then you're going to want to look at her family. That is her parents. How was she raised? How does she regard her father? How does she speak of her father? And then, of course, you're going to want to observe her friends. You see, her friends are a representation of her. Do not be fooled into the false idea that she might try to put forward, which is that, oh, my friends are promiscuous, but I'm not. No, 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 no. If your friends are promiscuous, use a hoe. It just is what it is. There's just no way around it. So I would take those things into consideration. And then I would ask myself, who's going to be my best worker? So I would give them tasks and ask them to serve me and see who serves better. And I would also keep an ear out for hearing objections and hearing women say, oh, no, I don't want to do this, or, you know, them not being amenable to your requests, because that's going to let you know how things might develop over the long term. But at the end of the day, you need to put in some time to get to know these women. And I would do that in parallel. I'm wishing you much success. Okay, so the gentleman writes, I make websites for creatives who want to be free. Okay, so that needs work. Number one, if these are creatives, meaning artists are generally broke. So that's not a good idea to make products for people who don't have money and who want to be free. What does that mean? That doesn't mean much. Like, I really need you to get clarity on this. It's worth getting clarity. You're not going to be able to sell until you get clarity. So, and I don't want your high concept pitch. I want something like very concrete. So, for example, I used to sell a women's wrap skirt, right? Which is to say it wraps around the body and you tie it. So I sell this wrap skirt for females age 23 to 28 who live in major cities and are young professionals and wear a size 0 to 8. You see how specific that is? See how specific that is? Why young professionals? Because this wrap skirt you can wear to the office as a good looking young woman. It's conservative enough. And then you can go straight to happy hour and straight to the club right after in the same outfit and you still look appropriate. You see how sharp that is? You know who I'm selling to, you know why I'm selling to, and you know what the value add is for the consumer. And that consumer has money. They're young professionals. Young people probably don't have kids and they're professionals, skilled persons. They have money. And it's just because I said like the high concept pitch you gave me is not good enough. That doesn't mean that you're not smart. That doesn't mean that you're not going to figure it out. That means that what you just said just isn't sharp enough yet. It's not there yet. And that's okay, because in life you draft things to perfection. You draft it to perfection. Okay. So keep drafting, but don't you ever sell a product to people who don't have money. Who doesn't have money? Public schools, average churches, nonprofit organizations, people in poverty. You want to sell products to targets that have significant discretionary or disposable outcome. A business is to get money. I don't care who's creative. I don't care if they want to be free. I mean, you need to care once they're your customer, like that you're going to serve them. But like, if that's just what's in your heart, no, we're not creating businesses, products, and services based on what's in our heart. We're creating business products and services based on what is profitable. That's what business is about. This is not a church, it's not a nonprofit. This is about money. Business is about money. And I don't say that to be a greedy person. I say that to alert you to what you're really doing. If you're starting a business, you're starting an organization based on the pursuit of wealth. If you're starting a church, you're starting a nonprofit entity based on the pursuit of spirituality and God. Know what you're doing and be serious about that pursuit. Shout out to Montreal. I think it's one of the saints in Saint City. He just got Boss University on pre-order, bossed up, you dig? And I'm excited to go through the course with the guys who get the pre-order. Here we go. I'm curious as to if anyone thinks that, before they got released, the Tate brothers decided, like, all right, you're going to do the talking. I'm going to just hang back off of some Grim Reaper, Undertaker-ish. You heard me? I'm going to just keep that cold Spartan steel on, and you can do the talking since you're the pretty one with the hair, and I'm going to just hang back like a goon. Do you guys think that they planned that out? I think that they did. I also think it's curious the lawyer's trying to take the spotlight, because as you can see, he's in the bottom corner and he's wearing bright blue. Everyone else is wearing black. Shout out to not having any goddamn subtitles, and this man is speaking in Romanian at length, and we don't have a clue what the boy is saying. You know, the funny thing is you really have to be careful about what you say, because someone said, what are your plans for tonight? And I think every man, after coming out of the pen, your instinct is to say, faux butt naked hoes. And you can't say that because you're actually on trial for exploiting women. So you really have to, not say a damn thing, which is why I encourage all of you to know that, generally speaking, silence is a good move. Whatever the situation is, silence is always a safe move.
When I was in jail, I focused on doing push-ups and reading the Quran. When I am home, I will focus on doing push-ups and reading the Quran.
MashaAllah. Long live the top G. Top G. Top G. Top G. Top G.
Hey, by the way, somebody tell Tristan to hire me as his marketing guy, because obviously, Tate has a moniker. He has a nickname, Top G, and Tristan is just like is like the brother. Tristan, holla at your boy, man. I'm gonna create some nicknames for you, man. I'm gonna get you in the game. I'm the nickname specialist. I got 1,000 names my damn self. You heard me? They call me the big homie, the one and only Fax Kellerman, Stephen A. Pimp Bayless, your favorite YouTuber's favorite YouTuber, the idol of James Bond, the bald head lover. I got you, bruh. Just holla at your boy. Noel News writes, I was just curious on your thoughts on scripture for you personally. I think scripture is generally good and tells some meaningful stories on human nature and gives good guidance on spirituality. Thank you for that question. I think very few people follow scripture. Um, very few Muslims, very few Christians, very few Jews follow scripture.
Andrew, let me shake your hand, please. Hands are full, my friend. Oh, sorry. I respect you.
You can hear one guy says, "Let me shake your hand. Let me shake your hand, please." And he says, "My hands are full, my friend." This is funny. This is funny. Oh, good. Oh, you dirty, bro. You dirty. He said, Tristan Bottom G. No, no. You dirty for that. Oh.
Thank you very much, man. I wish all the best for you.
Alin? What was the time was spent in the jail? And how was it like in jail?
You got to love these reporters asking the most meaningless questions. Shorty said, "What was the time in jail? What was it like spending time in jail?" Bitch, is jail, bitch. What you think I'm about to say? It was dirty. It was unpleasant. The food wasn't good. And the luxury services were in lack. Like, what do you think I'm going to say? Dumbass questions. What did you think it was like? What was jail? How was jail? Bitch. The fuck?
Sitting jail.
Shout out to this news network, which has cleverly put their logo on top of the video for playing this creepy ass music as though like this is just like the most serious, epic thing. Shout out.
I love you so
You're innocent. Everybody. Where is it?
But I'm gonna go ahead and say this is the most fame that the country of Romania has probably ever had. And I think they're really blowing the bag. I think that if the country was smart, they'd continue welcoming the Tate brothers and running up the tourist dollar. And instead, they're kind of making a mockery of justice and making a mockery of themselves. And it's really a pity to see the government do such a thing. And we know historically, governments do goofy stuff. It's all the nerds from the society. Shout out to Donovan, who just got Boss University. I already thought he had it. So, okay, so it's good to see that you'll be a part of that, Donovan. Absolutely. Absolutely. It'll be a good time. I'm very, very, very excited for Boss University. As I said very, very 3 times. Saints, I'll give you some time to send in your questions, comments as we wind down. Bruce writes, tuition. This is invaluable information and game that has helped me navigate through life. Your videos have taught me so much in such little time. Thank you, Marquette. Peace to the Saints. I appreciate that very kind message, Bruce. Thank you very much for that. And you're very welcome. Oh, my boy said it's time to dip. Suleiman writes, if I just got out of 3 months in the pen, screw the cameras, I'm going home. Bruh, look, I'm telling you, I ain't even gonna tell you, man. Let me just say this. I have the appetite of a king, And when I get back to the house, I'm devouring. You hear me? Line up a dozen of them hoes. They getting devoured, all of them. And honestly, if I just got the pen, I'm skeeting and everything raw. I got to spread my seed. These devils might lock me up. I got to spread the seed. I got to leave something to the world. Shout out to the Don. He writes, how much and where to buy Boss University? Well, the price is going up tomorrow by $20. So I'm not going to say the price because I don't know when people will be looking at this stream. But I think here's the link. Yeah, here's the link right here. And I'll see if I can add this to the description of this video. And I will be pushing up the price. And by the time the actual date of delivery comes, which is April 26th, in 26 days, by then the price will be much higher by design. I don't want my course to be the most popular course in the world. I want it to be the best course in the world, and the best things in life are exclusive. Shout out to Tate. He says, what color is your Bugatti? Which is to say, everybody ain't got a Bugatti. And this is the Bugatti of courses. I don't want it to be accessible. I want only bosses to have it. It's called Boss University. You dig? I'm also going to go ahead and put the link in the description right here. There you go. So the link is now in the description. I acknowledge Kevin. He writes, Top G needs to schedule a consultation ASAP. Yeah, definitely on the security side of things. I think organizationally he could be stronger. And I also think that from a strategic standpoint, you know, he needs a Carl Haushofer. He needs a Henry Kissinger, which is to say that, you know, he had, you know, spread the idea to many people who, you know, were listening like, oh, you know, I go to Romania, I have these multiple passports, I'm bulletproof. And we see that no one is bulletproof, and no one is beyond reproach, and no one can evade the long arm of the law. But the question is, when the enemy attacks you, are you isolated with a disorganized group of fans, which is a large group of latent power? So, you know, how do you organize it into real power? And I'm really excited if he ends up getting out of this, which we don't know if he does. But if he does get out of it, I'm excited to see what move he's going to make, because I think he'll be a lot more strategic and possibly emboldened. Link is in the description. I also have post the link in the